Hi everybody, it's Matt and Peter
Hello.
here from the Bright Click, and this is the first one of a series of videos that we're planning to record in relation to various aspects of what we offer here as an agency, and based around the kind of questions that we get asked by potential clients and clients alike, Pete, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly that. It generally is always the same questions, isn't it? When we're kind of in a meeting, whether it's about digital marketing, whether it's about websites, whether it's about email marketing, well, whatever it's about, you always generally get the same sort of questions. So I guess it kind of almost works a bit of a Q&A as well.
And I think the idea around this is we want to build a kind of bank of videos, a kind of go-to videos that answer the questions of people who are looking for assistance within their services that they offer, how to kind of inject a bit of digital marketing into what
Mm,
they're kind of doing day to day, what works and what doesn't, what works for
yeah.
certain industries, etc. So to kick things off, probably the question that we get asked, well, one of the questions we get asked the most, Pete, I would say, around kind of social media advertising. And I
Yeah.
mean, these days, let's kind of kick things off by saying that, nothing really comes for free on social media anymore, right? You've got the kind of your organic reach
Hmm.
has reduced down to as low as it's ever been. And to really have any kind of successful social media
Yeah.
campaign, you kind of need to back that up with something paid,
Yeah,
right?
and it makes sense, doesn't it? As much as we want social media to be free, and it is free, ultimately social media is there for us. It's exactly that. It's to be social. It's to interact with our friends. It's to look at stuff that we want to look at. So for advertisers to be able to go on and just put their product or their services in front of these users, it makes sense, right, that it should be paid for, that you should pay for that privilege. So, that's kind of the way it is.
So around paid advertising, there's
Mm.
two different models, aren't there? Let's talk about Facebook and Instagram specifically, as
Mhm.
they're both owned by Meta,
Mhm.
and that's where most of our sort of audiences live, I guess, as
Mhm.
from the B2C kind of B2C world in terms of the clients that we're generally working with.
Yeah.
The question I get asked most is generally around the difference between boosted posts and other kind of paid advertising.
Mm.
Two different audiences there potentially. So do you want to talk us through
Yeah.
who
Well,
we can reach?
yeah, you're absolutely right. Who can we reach? And you're right to say that it's a B2C market. On the face of it, Facebook and Instagram is generally a B2C market, but there are really unique ways that we can target businesses and that we can target professionals and stuff like that via Facebook as well. A lot of time people think LinkedIn is B2B and Facebook is B2C, but it's not necessarily the case. Okay,
I mean,
nor is
business owners still use Facebook and Instagram, right?
well, you
Even if
use
they don't use it
Instagram and
for business.
Facebook, right?
Exactly
Yeah,
that. Yeah, absolutely.
exactly. Yeah. So, in terms of who we can reach, it's as simple as potential new clients or customers and your current brand advocate. So it kind of is that simple, really. And I like to kind of have a couple of ads running at the same time. One targeting the people that you know already buy your product or use your service, and then also targeting new people as well. So in terms of the current brand advocates, there's ways that we can target people that already like your page, that have interacted with your website, warm leads, warm people who know who you are already, and then also targeting new people as well. There's loads of targeting options, that we can choose from, whether it's job titles, interests, generally what they're into, gender, and stuff like that. And we'll talk about insights in a little while, actually, and why the likes of gender and age is so important. So, yeah, I mean, new clients, brand advocates. Let's talk about who is currently buying your product and how we can continue targeting them. And let's talk about some incremental stuff. Let's try and bring in some new business for you as well.
Pretty important to clarify as well, isn't it? You talked about the brand advocates there, and I know the thing I get asked a lot on that basis is people saying, well, we've already got, let's say, 2,000 Facebook fans and we've got 1,000 people following us on Instagram. They're our brand advocates. What you probably don't realize is that only maybe 15 to 20% of that audience is ever seeing the content that you actually post organically, right? So
Yeah,
that's where putting a boost behind makes sure that your existing audience get to see
yeah.
your actual content, right?
Exactly, yeah. And that's why sometimes you put out a piece of content on your social media and it gets one like or it gets two likes, because the reality is it's not going to all of the people that you need it to go to.
Yeah.
Again, they want you to say, the man. They want you to pay for the privilege, you know. So I think that's really important to remember. So yeah, if you want to put out if you want to do a boosted post, you can boost the current post that you're putting out, a piece of content, an important piece of information. You can boost that content so it appears to all of the people that are currently liking your page and their friends, and a specific message out there that you think got a really important piece of content you've written. And then in terms of the ads themselves, that's something that is done in a little bit more detail. So you can create a goal and you can really do some great targeting with that. Again, we'll go into goals in a little bit. So yeah, exactly that, man.
And you mentioned also people that have visited your website. That's called remarketing or retargeting.
Yeah.
You'll see it utilized by quite a lot of bigger brands, but it can have a real impact on a smaller brand as well, right? If you lots of people say, oh, I don't like it when there's ads follow me around or whatever, but it's actually incredibly useful to do, right? As a brand.
It's true. Yeah. How many times has a client said to us, oh, we don't like the idea of Google ads? Because if somebody, you know, I would never click a Google ad. If I see at top of Google and it says this is an ad, click here, I would never click that. But the reality is it gets loads of clicks. That's what people do. They do see it at the top and they do click it, whether you would click it or not, or whether you would buy a product directly from Facebook or give your details for a call back about a service. The reality is people do it. It's a really, really effective way of getting yourself out there.
You mentioned Google ads, where prices at the moment, cost per click and pay per click prices are going through the roof. Facebook ads have increased a little bit in price over the last kind of year or so, but still pretty much cheaper than everything else out there, right?
For me, it's the most cost-effective way to advertise. I mean, I've been working in marketing for years and years now, hence the Greys. Yeah, exactly.
It only gets worse.
Yeah. But going back to people still do magazine advertising and print advertising and stuff like that. You're talking thousands and thousands of pounds for a double page spread and an editorial piece and stuff like that, which is that's how all people used to advertise. And actually the actual costs for social media ads are so cheap, mainly on Facebook and Instagram. You could be getting 1p a click, you can be getting 2p a click. So it really is so cost effective. The reach you can get by putting your ads out there. We spoke about who we're going to be targeting, so whether we're going to be targeting new people or brand advocates. Well, now we're talking about cost. Imagine if I was to say to you, I can get in front of your brand advocates, or I can get in front of a lookalike of your brand advocates and potential new clients, and get you 1p a click, get you 2p a click. You'd be like, that's great. That's brilliant. Now the actual conversion rate of that is obviously going to be lower. So you need a lot of those clicks to be able to pull in a couple conversions, but it's a really good cost-effective way of advertising and keeping your brand out there on socials. And unlike print advertising back in the day, you've got all of these nice stats to back it up, so I think that's really important as well. A little bit dearer on LinkedIn. I say a little bit, it can be a lot dearer on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
You can be paying £10 for a click, or you can be paying £15 for a click, done in a more bidding format on LinkedIn. So you end up bidding on average what other bidders are bidding for that audience, if that makes sense. So very much like Google and how kind of that works. If the audience that you're trying to get in front of is particularly sought after by other advertisers, it's going to cost more per click or more per lead. You often find that with B2B though, it's a lot more targeted. You're a lot more likely to nail a lead and to land a really important lead or something like that via something like LinkedIn, which is why it costs a little bit more money, I guess, as well. So yeah, definitely a cost-effective way of trying advertising. And yeah, I say to all of my clients, let's do it. Let's come up with some, dip your toe in the water budget, and let's put some stuff out there. Let's do some split testing. Let's gain some insights from our ads. Let's talk about goals, and let's get something live.
Brilliant. Well, let's talk about those insights first of all, then, Pete, because as you said, in the old days of what still exists to some extent, but like print advertising or leaflets or that kind of stuff, we see it, for example, with estate agents. I get a leaflet through my door, from a local estate agent most days, and on occasion in the past, that's meant that that's triggered something that actually I do need that valuation or I do need that. But ultimately, a lot of those leaflets are going in the bin and playing that kind of numbers game, if you like, that some will respond. The difference between social media kind of element here is you can basically see exactly kind of who's seen it, and you can see exactly who's clicked on your ad, and you can start to build an audience, right, of your ideal customers in different locations, different. Yeah, give us your views on the insight side of things.
Yeah, 100%. There's no ad is a wasted ad ever. Even if you put out an ad and you put 50 quid behind it, a couple of £100 behind it, and you don't necessarily get the leads that you wanted, you do gain huge insight from that ad, which you can then hone and make your any further ads you put out more targeted and stuff like that. So I'll give you an example. There's loads of examples. Well, one that kind of sticks out in my head in terms of insights that ended up helping us with future ads for this client was a sash windows company, and they did fitting or restoration, of sash windows and that kind of stuff. And what we found interesting was the leads that we weren't getting through a huge amount of leads, but the leads that we were getting through were all women, every single one. And it was really interesting, because when I then spoke to the client, the penny kind of dropped, and they said, oh yeah, well actually, that is generally the case in our business, I guess, as well. Generally, the woman seems to be the decision maker for that particular product and that particular service. So we then started just targeting women. We thought, well, let's cut the men out. They don't seem to be responding. And let's see if we can kind of get some more leads by just targeting women, for example. We also had a look at the ages of the people that were replying to us. And we were able to just slightly tighten that age bracket up a little bit as well. And then all of a sudden, we were just advertising to the small amount of leads that we had received, but we were targeting just that demographic. And it just meant that the money was being better spent. It wasn't being wasted on a potentially younger or older demographic, which it wasn't bringing any leads in for. It wasn't targeting men anymore, which we weren't getting leads from anyway. So we were really just honing the budget. And the client at first was like, oh, well, I don't want to kind of restrict people from seeing it. But my attitude was, well, it doesn't really matter too much, because by targeting just these people that we know are responding to us, we're not going to be wasting any money on non-responders. And it may well be that we missed the odd man of the odd in the odd age bracket that may have replied, but we also cut out loads that we knew weren't working anyway. So as I say, insight into an ad is really, really important. As soon as you've created your ad, put your ad out there, your campaign's finished, it's really important to have a look at exactly how that campaign went, and not just go, oh, it did work or it didn't work, and I might do some more, I might not do some more. But actually use insight to make that decision.
Well, that's your classic as well, market message media, isn't it? Like where you've got the 3 M's there, where basically you've got your target market, you've got the message that you're kind of sort of aiming there, and then you've got the actual media that you want to use. So in this case, it's kind of social media. And but what I'm kind of getting to there is when you've got your audience defined, you can craft your message so much more accurately to that audience. So if you know that you're aiming an ad just at women in Teddington, aged between 30 and 50, for example, you can almost craft your ad as if you're speaking to one person who fits into that audience, and therefore they're much more likely to resonate to the ad. If you're trying to be all things to all people, it becomes a bit harder to do that, right? So
that's a really good point as well with the tone that you're talking about there. You're exactly right. We've produced ads for festivals and stuff like that, where and this is a bit more obvious, but it's kind of to kind of prove your point. Obviously, your tone and the way you write the ad needs to be completely different based on the demographic. So when you're putting out quite a blanket ad, it's hard to serve the right tone to all people, like you say. So as soon as you're then able to hone your ad with insight, you can change the tone of your ad with insight as well, and make it resonate with that particular group more. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, absolutely. So look, insights, all that kind of stuff, the message, all of that kind of stuff, absolutely brilliant. What we really need at the end of that all is an objective as well, right? We need something that we're trying to, the outcome, what we're aiming for. And again, Facebook gives us a whole bunch of things to choose from, right?
It does. And I actually think that when it comes to the kind of end result, the goal, let's say, actually, I generally like the goal to be the first discussion point of any meeting that I have with a client. I met with a client a couple of weeks ago, and I went in there and we had a massive agenda to go through. But my first question was, what is the goal here? What are we trying to achieve? Is it brand awareness? Is it more traffic? Is it leads? Is it product sales? Is it visits to your store? Like there's so many things to choose from. Once we know what that goal is, we can then almost reverse engineer the ad and create an ad that achieves that. So I'll give you some examples on Facebook specifically. Right at the beginning of the ad, you can choose your campaign objective. So you can choose whether it's brand awareness, so getting your brand out there, trying to get more likes to your page, trying to get it out to the right people, and put your logo in everybody's face, and really kind of put you on the map. Obviously there's other considerations, traffic, getting more traffic to your website, and naturally more traffic to your website is a great thing for your website. Getting more engagement for your specific post, so have you got a specific question that you want to ask to people and that you want to get responses from? Well, an ad can be put out to gain engagement. App installs, video views, lead generation, conversions in terms of putting a product out there and trying to get a tangible sale. Now, in choosing that goal, Facebook, for example, will actively target people that resonate best with that goal. So, for example, if we wanted to put out an ad out to sell a pair of trainers, we've already come up with our demographic. We've already worked out what budget we want to put. Ultimately, we want to make some sales. And putting out this ad actually in front of people and actually showing it to the right people that are more likely to resonate with that product and buy that product is so important. It's easy to just say, I'm going to target 35-year-old men, but there may be 35-year-old men out there that don't buy products online directly from Facebook ads. And Facebook knows who those people are. So in choosing one of these considerations, in choosing one of these goals, Facebook will then actively put it in front of the people that will buy the product, not the people that tend not to buy the product. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yeah. And then we'll show, the more that people do show interest, or the more that people do buy, it will see the type of people who are converting and show the ad more to the people who are more likely to convert, right? Which is correct. Again,
it might be that, say, for example, you and I, within a similar age group, slightly, we might be targeted with the same product. We might be interested in the same product, but it might be that you never buy stuff directly from Facebook. It might be that, or Instagram, but I do buy stuff directly from Facebook or Instagram. Well, Facebook knows that. There's no point in them putting that ad in front of you. They might as well put it in front of me because they know I'm more likely to buy it. But that's what I mean about choosing the goal at the beginning. In choosing that goal, Facebook and Instagram will make sure that your ad is not only put in front of the right people, but people most likely to achieve that goal for you, whether it be traffic, a click, purchase, entering their details, or whatever.
And just touching back on cost briefly there, from our experience, that when you hit that right audience and you hit those right conversions and you hit that rhythm, then generally the cost actually decreases a little bit. So Facebook will incentivize you to stick around and to carry on using a method that's working. Whereas, for example, I've seen with Google plenty of times when something starts to work, they start charging you more because they think, well, it's working, we might as well see if we can squeeze some more money out of these guys, right?
Yeah, absolutely true. Yeah.
But let's talk a little bit about design, Pete. So we've got different options on Facebook ads. We're all used to seeing them. It was years ago, you got the old right-hand desktop ads, which then once Facebook needed to really start to monetize things into the smartphone revolution, now newsfeed generally dominates the entire landscape. There's a little bit of flexibility in there, isn't there? But what's the key to a good design, a good ad, and getting the most out of it?
first of all, having a look at what your competitors are doing. There's a really handy tool actually called Facebook Ads Library. You can Google it and go onto it now. And if you type in you type in your competitor's name, you can see what they're advertising, and it's all just kind of in the public domain. And you can put in industries and see what certain industries are advertising. So you can see what other people are putting out, which I always find really important. It's always really important to see what other people are putting out, what's working well for other people as well, and how can you kind of piggyback on that to an extent. But naturally, you have to you have to add your own twist to it. You kind of want to stand out. Unfortunately, there's not a huge amount of flexibility when it comes to Facebook ads. It's generally an image upload or a carousel upload or a video upload. But ultimately, the most important thing is about where you appear on that feed, which we've kind of spoken about. But you can do a lot of split testing when it comes to creativity, which I always find really, really interesting. It's where it gets kind of quite exciting. You can put out an ad, for example, and let's just say, for example, you're selling motorbike helmets. You want to sell a load of gear for a motorbike outfit. You've got a load of different images of the model, and he's got a different kind of color helmet on, for example. Well, why not create a duplicate of that ad with each of those different images and just see which one resonates best? Facebook will spread the budget out equally across those different split tested creatives, and it will almost start letting one of them win. As soon as it starts seeing that one is resonating better, so for example, the red helmet is resonating much better with your target demographic than any of the others, it will just naturally start putting more budget into that specific creative. And then at the end of your campaign, again, we go back to insights. You've put out multiple different creatives. You can also split test different demographics, different age groups, different whatever you want. You can split test. At the end of that campaign, you can go back with insight and say, wow, I mean, we've spoken here about who we're targeting. We've spoken about the cost. We spoke a lot about insights and goals. Well, to achieve those goals, it's so important to get that insight. I know I keep harping on about insight, but with the split testing, you can kind of do that. So whilst the actual creative elements themselves can be quite restricted and templated via the likes of Facebook, LinkedIn, and the advertising platform, to be fair, you can do lots of split testing to see what your demographic is resonating best with.
Really great. I have a funny example of this actually with an automotive client we worked with a few years ago around trying to get some test drives in for the Toyota Aygo. And we used 3 different coloured Toyota Aygo, same image, but just 3 different colours. One was white, one was red, and one was yellow. And what was really amazing is that the yellow one turned out to have more clicks on that ad than the other 2 put together. But interestingly, wow, the yellow Aygo out of the 3 was the colour least likely to be picked for the actual car once they actually came and purchased the car. So, but what was funny is the more we showed the yellow ad, the more test drives we booked. And to the point that they started to show the yellow vehicle on their brochures and on their flyers and all that kind of stuff, because it was much more likely to resonate with the audience. But funnily enough, at the other end of the process, when they came to actually buy the car, they were much less likely to choose yellow. So it's a really great example of just getting that marketing message right and understanding what the audience are doing and getting them interested in the first place. We got all those test drives booked, even though the colour ultimately wasn't one that the end user.
It's so strange. There's no understanding consumer trends and what people like to do, and it's obviously that specific colour just popped better on screen.
Yeah, just popped on screen. Yeah,
on phone, it just looks so much better. But then in person, which by the way, you've got them hooked whilst you've got them there doing the test drive. You can then, it doesn't really matter what product you sell, I guess you've sold the product, but the most important thing was that you got them there, and by doing that split testing and gaining that insight, you were able to kind of say, oh well, we can get you more test drives by using this color car, because it just tends to pop more and resonate better with that audience.
Exactly that. And what's really interesting about split testing there, Pete, as well, is if, for example, we just used the white Aygo or the red Aygo for those for one ad without split testing, we almost certainly wouldn't have booked as many test drives because we'd have never known that the yellow one was the one that was going to pop the most and get the most responses, right? So unless you test unless you try these things out, then you never know. You might have picked the worst possible color, you might have picked the best one, but that would be random unless you actually tested that in the first place, right?
Exactly. And you wouldn't want to waste all of your money on something that doesn't resonate well as another audience or another piece of creative or something like that. So that's why, again, we keep going back to it, don't we? Why it's so important to split test, so important to gain insight from each ad you put out, why it's so important to have a real think about what your goal is going to be at the beginning, and build your ads from there. There is an art to it, you know. It's not just a case of just putting something out there because you think it will work. You think that your clients or people that are potentially going to buy your products are going to resonate best with. You know, you don't know until you've tried it.
Absolutely agreed. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. So finally, how easy is this stuff to set up? Because it's a bit of a minefield, and we obviously inherit a lot of accounts that have been set up incorrectly.
Yeah,
Is it straightforward?
it can be quite tricky. When it comes to the ad platforms, Facebook have a very strange way of setting up new company pages and ads and stuff like that in general. They use their Meta Suite, which essentially you need an actual profile, an actual real user profile to be able to become an admin of, and to be able to create a company page, be able to create an ad account and stuff like that. It can be quite strange. I'm sure that will change in the future. It can be quite difficult to just get that all set up correctly in the beginning. It's important to use best practice to get it set up correctly in the beginning. So if you end up moving to a different agency, or you bring in a new member of the marketing team, or somebody leaves and you have to take it back over, that it's really easy to swap admin rights over to different members of the team or different agencies and stuff like that. We've had it so many times where it's been set up so strangely and incorrectly that we struggle for weeks to be able to get access to it. So getting that off the ground early is really important. I quite like it when a client approached me and said, you know what, we haven't done any ads yet. Can you set it up for us? Because I know I will set it up with best practice and it will be done proper. Of course, if a client does come to us and say, we have done ads in the past, we don't really know who's an admin, it's important to get those questions in nice and early so we can start looking to gain access as soon as possible. So the setup can be a little bit tough, but if you know what you're doing, it can be a lot easier. In terms of actually setting up the ads themselves, it can be fairly simple. You run through the detail that you need to, you assign your budgets. The one thing I will say is there are just certain little things that I certainly have picked up in over the years that are really important to try and test. So, for example, it's not obvious how much other bidders on LinkedIn are bidding in your particular industry for your particular type of product. It's not obvious what that is. There are just certain ways to be able to find out what that is. So a lot of the time, whilst the ad itself can be quite simple to set up, it's those little intricate details that are so important to making that ad a success. But certainly for me, the setup can be a bit difficult. The actual ad itself, really important to set it up properly, to set up your audience properly, to set up your split testing properly. So yeah, it needs to be done with care, but if it is, you'll reap the rewards bit at the end of your campaign, because as we say, you'll get all of that great insight and and hopefully lots and lots of leads and product sales too.
So we would say then, to wrap up then, Pete, is that Facebook ads and Instagram ads are absolutely amazing. They can reap incredible rewards, but the best way to get the outcome from them really is to make sure that they're set up properly in the first place, and that your account's set up properly in the first place, and that you're in the best position to be able to manage that. And of course, if you need any help or advice, or you're looking just to have someone cast an eye over with no obligation, just to kind of have a little look and check how things are set up for you, then you can always feel free to drop us a line here at the Bright Click, and we're very happy to take a look for you. So Pete, I think we wrap it up there. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us and for for watching this. If you do have any questions, hit us up on the social channels. That's what we're there to answer your questions. Or you can email us at support@thebrightclick.co.uk as well. And please watch out for more of these. We're going to be recording them regularly. And if there's a specific question that you'd like answered, feel free to drop us a line, and we'll be pleased to answer that for you. Cheers, and have a great day.